There's always been this fear and this threat that there is a serial killer amongst us. You sit there and you wonder and you question, how does one person do this to another person? I think it's sort of the nature of serial killers or anyone who's a predator of any sort, whether they're sexual predators or serial killers or whoever they are, to go after the most vulnerable and the marginalized that people won't pay attention to.
There are many people in our community who are marginalized for many reasons, whether it's being queer, being an immigrant, being a person of color.
I think there has been a continued narrative that really builds on long-standing tropes about our community around how men who have sex with men engage with each other, how there is how maybe they're asking for it given how they're living their lives, what have you, and that is a dangerous stereotype that just further isolates people, especially folks who aren't out, who don't have those types of supports, and if anything just pushes people closer to the margins and makes them
I've been working with a majority of them, primarily the Tamil community, as well as Silly Messon's brothers, and I've been working with Dean's daughter, because I took on the remains of Dean Zwick, in communication with his family, because they didn't want to be so public. So I said, I'll take on the administrative roles of everything on his remains, but we'll work together to put up the funeral. So it's not like they were completely disconnected, they were always connected, but I just took the lead in the administrative components of that. So I've been working with most of them and in touch with Andrew's family and friends.
During the course of the sentencing hearing, became acquainted with some of the families more, and I'm not sure how they're ever going to be able to move on. It's just horrific. Some of those guys, their mothers had to bury them.
The 25 years is not to say that he can apply to come out, but it's to even to be eligible to apply for parole, and there's no chance of applying for parole. So people are missing that fact that he is gone from life. Like that's it. The 25 years is just for him to apply for parole, and the chances of him being able to is and one, that he is actually pleading guilty and that he's not going to go through a long drawn-out court process and really, do some significant damage to the family, significant damage to the community, and I'm grateful for that.
We're a community who for decades has had to rely on each other in order to keep ourselves safe, whether that's in the face of homophobia and transphobia and hate crime, whether that's in response to the HIV/AIDS crisis, whether that is us advocating for equal rights under the law.
Well, I think the community has already sort of started to move forward. We're certainly creating some spaces where people can still come together and heal and have conversations and talk if they need to. Those kinds of things are still happening. And I think a majority of the folks are still reeling with how did this happen in our community, right? And the impact of it from businesses to individuals to communities, and it goes beyond, right, because of the racialized component of these individuals and their families and how those families are experiencing it. It's a complicated process, and I think it's going to take several years, and slowly they'll get through it. They'll never get over it.
We held another vigil right after the sentencing. Honored all of the victims, knew all their names at that point. And some people say that's a way for folks to get closure. But for some folks, it's not possible. And I guess there were about 500 people on a Sunday evening, and It was cathartic. It was beautiful to be tasked with representing the community in such a horrific and emotional time. You know, feels like a very, very difficult responsibility. And yet it was also a privilege to be able to do that.
There are some people who are feeling relief. There's many folks who continue to feel, rightly so, unsafe, given the heightened level of violence that our communities face. A lot of questions are still outstanding as to how the perpetrator got away with this for so long.
So some folks, I think, are feeling safer. Some folks are not. You know, I think folks in the trans community still legitimately know they still have a lot of risk.
I mean, there's a first-hand and a second-hand trauma. There's a first-hand trauma for the family members of the victims, for the friends of the victims, for the friends of Mr. McArthur as well, in fact. And then, of course, the secondary trauma, too, of especially where so much of this happened, right in the village, at bars we all know, at places where our communities come together to celebrate, to feel safe, to build community, to kind of have those spaces, that sense of community so shaken is definitely a very difficult thing.
The police, I believe, are convinced that the 8 known victims are McArthur's only victims, and they have been extremely diligent about their investigation. And yet, you know, there are other people who have disappeared over the years or been killed over the years, and we don't have all the answers, and probably never will. Life doesn't come with convenient answers. You know, even if we solve all the who and what and where and when, we're never going to know why. You know, I think for a lot of South Asian men, they still get up in the morning, look in the mirror, and realize, oh my God, I look like his victims. You know, and some of them encountered him and lived to tell the tale.
But we also started a program called the SAFE program at ASAP, recognizing that not everybody has somebody to tell, right? Especially if they're going on a date, and irrespective of your gender identity, sexual orientation, who you do, what we don't care. What we care about is that you let us know where you're going and give us some of that information, and that and information to contact you, and that you need to let us know once you come back home safe. If you don't, I'll follow up with you. And if you're not answering my calls, and within 24 hours, that's usually the waiting period is 24 to 48 hours, then I will go to the police with the information. We don't want to go to the police, but ideally, but if we have to and you're not responding to us, we will, kind of situation. So it's creating that safe space so that you have a third-party person that really doesn't give a damn who you're doing and what you're doing, but who really does give a damn about your safety. Then you can just tell that person to do what you need to do to have a good time, and we hope that people have a good time, but you know, and we don't guarantee that we'll find you alive or unharmed, but we guarantee that we will find you and that we don't have to wait 8 years to find you.
One of the things that I'm doing is make a plaque or something up around Mallory Crescent, probably in the ravine, just the names of the guys, just so they're not forgotten. Mm-hmm. And I think that's another thing, is that, you know, I'm hoping someday the killer's name will be forgotten, and I'll still remember the names of the victims.
So no doubt we have a lot of work to do ahead of us, but we're defined by how we work together and take care of each other, and that won't ever stop.
One thing that has come out of the case that I hope will last is the sense that we need to look out for one another more.